Today's topic is about thoughtful nourishment and hydration. And we're first going to discuss how it's not about eating perfectly, it's about eating thoughtfully.
So one suggestion that we go off of is, I'm drawing a blank.
Well, I think it's that people are obsessed with the idea of eating perfectly and they can't enjoy their food and they can't enjoy eating or, nourishing their body, but it's more about, yes, it's what you're eating because it does matter what you are putting in your body.
And especially overall.
But it's also about, like, are you getting nutritious meals in the sense of, are you getting healthy enough foods, but it doesn't have to be clean and healthy all the time.
Because it can be to the extreme.
Right, and so I think it's more about, are you getting full meals that are good for your body, but might not be perfect by the world standards.
And we recommend 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and supper, and snacks in between.
Right, and so I think it's kind of, the first thing is kind of not getting rid of, but retraining your mind to not think for perfection, but thinking more thoughtfully.
Yes, your brain and your body.
Right, and so I think that's kind of one of the bigger steps, actually, instead of even the eating more thoughtfully, is the reprogramming your mind that it's okay if you have sugar or that, but it needs to be in moderation. It needs to be thoughtful, and so I think that's one of the main things.
Well, and I think everybody has to also look at it from where they're at with their own health, their own mental and physical health, especially their physical body. And we kind of have to go from there.
Right.
Because it depends if you're needing to make other changes with it. But nourishment can be really enjoyable when you get to the point, because believe me, we've been through plenty through the years, but we're finally, these years, being more plateau. We're not having roller coasters. And I would say something with the acidity. There's so many topics we'll bring up. I really don't want to go in depth here. But I think due to all the commercials, all the ads, all the marketing, everything we see everywhere, like you're saying, mentally, we've got to get in the right mindset.
Well, and understanding that it's not going to be the same for every person. Even in a family, your body is unique, so you might have the same, you might be having the same meals or, like in a family, but like also understanding that for one person, it's not going to look the exact same of what their body needs or in certain times as another person. And so I think that's an unrealistic standard that is kind of promoted of, like, everyone needs to eat this way for it to be healthy or for it to be nourishing, and that's not the case.
And something that we go off of, though, we do eat the 3 meals a day. We also feel it is important when you're having your meals together that for the majority of the time, unless like leftovers and that kind of stuff, what you put on the table everybody eats, but it needs to work for everybody. But we do it pretty simple. I don't want to change topics on you. I don't want to bring up new topics. And so I would say work on the mental and then, what your habits are. But just get out of that perfect mindset.
Well, and I think that the saying everything in moderation, it can obviously be too broad because there's certain things that you should not eat or drink even in moderation necessarily.
Correct.
But I do think that moderation is a good thing, especially like when you're talking about like sugar, like we were saying, or soda or whatever it is. I don't think it's that in certain times you might need it, not in your life at that time.
Yes,
but I don't think at its core it is like, like a bad thing if you do have some of those things in moderation. And so understanding that cutting, like people will try to cut carbs or
deprive themselves.
Right. And so like I think it's about finding a healthy balance for you, again, for you or, within your family or whatever it might be, of still having those in your, within your meals or your snacks, but like not getting too heavy in one side and not enough in the other.
Well, and I think, which we'll go into other videos, but you got to look at your movement. throughout the day. You got to look at your hydration with water. Water only, not anything, plain water. You got to look at your hydration. You got to look at what state your body is in. And like the quote from the Bible is, everything is permissible, not everything is beneficial. And so we do have to, and there are times, but you know, like Tommy John always says, a happy donut is better than a sad salad.
Right.
So, you know, completely now I've had people say, I can't eat just 1 or 2 pieces of pizza. I can't eat just a piece of cake. I can't, but there are deeper causes for that in your life that we need to look at to see what's going on in my, you know, maybe past patterns or habits or traumas or abuse, or, you know, there's so much there that we have to look at. But that, go to the root causes, you know, work on those, because then our eating habits.
Well, and it's all about mindset. And so I think another part about it is that meals don't need to be extravagant to be nourishing. You don't have to have a fancy, like all these different things on the table for it to be nourishing and for it to be beneficial to you. And so I think that's another thing with the whole perfection thing, is we have this in our mind, and there's nothing wrong with those extravagant meals or having more different variety on your table. There's nothing wrong with that, but also understanding that they don't need to be that way for it to be positive and helpful and to nourish you.
Well, and I think a meat, we usually have a potato or a sweet potato or squash or something. Then we have another veggie that's cooked, or if you happen to have a salad. We keep it pretty simple for like our suppers, and our lunches are usually, not always, we may eat out here or there or this or that, but leftovers. Yet if you get too much at the table too, or you're having like salads, that the salad dressings and the sweets, the sweet salad, if you're having those for regular meals, we also become too acidic, and our body just can't, and we don't have the movement like they used to.
Right.
You know, we don't burn that down, and or maybe some do, but I would say definitely doesn't have to be extravagant, or having high sodium, or a lot of, you know, cheeses and like I said, dressings and all of that kind of stuff in moderation. But you know, there's a lot of acidity going on within our bodies that if we prevent that, you'll also feel a lot better.
Well, I think also paying attention to how you feel, and if you need to adjust what you're eating at that time, or more long term too, it can be just different foods that you might need to have more in moderation, so you don't have to cut them out entirely, but just like paying attention to how you feel, because what we are eating does affect how we feel.
The next 24 hours, and pay attention to when you're eating it and right after you've eaten, and then pay attention over the next 24 hours, because but from the moment you're eating it, sometimes I can even tell when I start eating something, I'm like, you know, or after, how you feel better, feel worse. Honestly, this stuff works. It's simple. Don't make it complicated.
Right.
Because you know you can program yourself to pay attention, and you deserve to feel really good. How do you sleep? How do you feel throughout your day? You know, how do you wake up? All of that kind of stuff. You're worth it.
Right, and I feel like that's just something that has become almost over talked about, in the sense of over complicating it, like we were talking about. And so I think it needs to be talked about, because it is important. It's one of the most important areas of your life, but not over complicating it.
No, it complex or complicated we don't do well with. it just, the simpler the better. But know that you can handle this. Know that you can figure this out for yourself. And, you know, that's why we also want to build this community, is to be able to help each other. And know you're not alone, you know, because, and the diets and the mass marketing and everything out there, just step back and just know that you can do this.
Yeah. So I think the main takeaway for today's video is how it's not about eating perfectly, it's about eating thoughtfully. We enjoyed having you here. As always, we are open to discussions. Please share in our community or get in touch with us to talk more about this. We'll be sharing more about this, but thank you for being here, and we'll see you next time.
We appreciate you, and we are thankful for you, and take care.